The air in the locker room wasn't just air, it was a mythology. It was thick with the triumphant reek of victory, a potent cocktail of sweat, cheap body spray, and the damp, churned-up earth of the soccer field. For 90 minutes, we had been warriors. Now we were kings, and this was our grimy, chaotic castle. Shots echoed off the tiled walls, towels snapped like pistol shots, and the metallic clang of lockers being slammed shut was our victory anthem. I was riding the high. We just dismantled our arch-rivals, the Northwood Vikings, 3-0, and I'd buried the final goal in the back of the net. I leaned back on the bench, propping my feet up on a stool, and took a moment to admire my own handiwork. Or, well, footwork. My legs. They were my pride and joy. Years of sprints, squats, and slide tackles had carved them into something I was unapologetically proud of. Tanned, defined, and currently glistening with a fine sheen of sweat. "Would you look at that?" I said, just loud enough for my best friend and resident pain in the ass, Sam, to hear. "These are million-dollar legs. A masterpiece of athletic perfection." Sam, who was wrestling a t-shirt over his head, snorted. "Million-dollar legs that smell like a forgotten gym bag. Put them down, Leo. Your ego is going to achieve sentience and walk out on its own." "Jealousy is an ugly color on you, Sammy," I shot back with a grin. "You just wish you had calves like these." Women weep when they gaze upon these calves. A couple of guys nearby chuckled. This was our standard routine, the Leo and Sam show. But then, Sam's face changed. A slow, wicked grin spread across his lips, the kind that always signaled impending doom. He walked over and stood in front of me, crossing his arms. "You're that confident, huh?" he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You really think those legs are a gift to humanity?" "I don't think," I said, puffing out my chest. "I know." "All right, Mr. Million-Dollar Legs," he said, leaning in. "I've got a challenge for you." He pointed to the student activities board, a chaotic collage of papers tacked over more papers. Pinned right in the middle was a flyer that stood out from the rest, deep crimson with elegant, gold script. I squinted. "The Athena Gala," I read aloud, my voice laced with confusion. "A celebration of form and poise." "What about it?" Sam's grin was now so wide it was practically splitting his face. "If you're so proud of those legs, you should enter. Prove they're the best not just on the field, but on the stage, too." "I dare you." The locker room, which had been buzzing, fell silent. Every eye was on me. It was a ridiculous dare. A joke. I laughed, a little too loudly. "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." "It's a women's pageant, you moron." Sam countered smoothly, having clearly anticipated this. "The flyer says it's a competition judged on poise, confidence, and aesthetic presentation. It's about celebrating the beauty of the leg as a form. Says nothing about gender. It's an equal opportunity gala. Very progressive." The guys started snickering. The dare was hanging in the air, shimmering with comedic potential. My reputation as the guy who never backed down was on the line. "Forget it, Sam." "It's stupid," I said, starting to get up. But what's the alternative?" he said, putting a hand on my shoulder to stop me. He had me, and he knew it. "Here's the bet. Either you enter the Athena Gala, or, at the homecoming game next month, you have to dress as the Northwood Vikings mascot and lead their cheer section. For the whole game." He paused for dramatic effect, complete with the horned helmet and cheap fur vest. The room erupted in howls of laughter. The image of me, Leo Martinez, star forward, leading the cheers for our most hated rivals was too much for them. Even I had to admit, it was a masterful checkmate. Either way, I was facing public humiliation. The only question was what flavor it would be. A pageant seemed like the lesser of two evils. It was a joke competition, right? I could enter, get laughed out in the first round, and win the bet. Easy. But being the Viking mascot? That was a deep, personal shame that would be immortalized in 1,000 phone pictures. My pride, that stupid, stubborn thing, took over. I let out a long, theatrical sigh. "Fine," I said, the word tasting like ash. "You're on. I'll enter your stupid gala. But when I win, you're paying for my celebratory steak dinner for a month." Sam's jaw dropped. He hadn't expected me to agree. "You're serious?" Deadly serious, I said, standing up and snatching the crimson flyer off the board. Get ready to witness the reign of the first ever Athena King. The locker room exploded again, a mix of laughter and cheers. I held up the flyer like a trophy, a cocky grin plastered on my face. Inside, though, a cold, hard knot of dread was forming in my stomach. What the hell had I just agreed to? A few days later, I found myself standing outside the office for the Student Arts Council. The knot of dread had grown into a full-blown anxiety beast. I pushed open the door. The office was a cramped, creative space overflowing with posters and the faint smell of jasmine tea. Behind a large desk sat a woman who couldn't have been much older than 30. She had sharp, intelligent eyes, dark hair pulled back in a severe but stylish bun, and a look that seemed to dissect you, file you away, and form an opinion all in a matter of seconds. A small nameplate read, Alara Vance, Director. She looked up as I entered, her expression one of polite inquiry. Then her eyes scanned me from head to toe, my nervous posture, my soccer hoodie, the crumpled crimson flyer in my hand. A slow, intrigued smile spread across her face. Well, she said, her voice surprisingly warm. A man. Here for the gala. How wonderfully disruptive. Please come in. I shuffled forward, feeling like a kid called to the principal's office. Yeah. I'm here to sign up. I think. You think. She chuckled softly. Don't be nervous. We haven't had a male contestant since the 90s. And he wore sweatpants. I trust you'll be more committed to the aesthetic. I opened my mouth to explain that this was all a misunderstanding, a stupid bet, but she was already sliding a form across the desk. Passion is more important than a resume, she said with a knowing wink. I have a feeling you're going to make things very interesting this year, Leo. Her confidence in my disruptive presence was so genuine, so disarming, that the words died in my throat. How could I say, actually, ma'am, I'm just here to mock your event to avoid wearing a fur vest? With a decisive thump, she stamped the bottom of my application. The ink was a bold, permanent blue. Registration complete, she said, looking up at me with that same encouraging smile. No turning back now. We're so thrilled to have you on this journey with us. You're going to be fantastic. I mumbled a thank you and stumbled out of the office, the crimson flyer now feeling like a legally binding contract in my sweaty palm. The joke had suddenly become very, very real. I wasn't just a contestant. I was a statement. What the hell had I just become? Back in the relative safety of my dorm room, the full weight of my predicament began to sink in. Okay, Leo, calm down, I muttered, pacing the small space. It's just a campus gala. A few dozen people in the university auditorium. I can handle that. To reassure myself, I decided to do a little research. I typed Athena Gala into the search bar and hit enter. The first result wasn't a dinky student club webpage. It was a slick, professionally designed website with a gallery of high-definition photos from previous years. The headline read, "The region's premier celebration of style and form, sponsored by Silken Luxury Hosiery and streamed live on Vogue Forward." My blood ran cold. I clicked frantically through the site. This wasn't some small-time campus event. This was a serious competition. The list of past winners included aspiring models and brand ambassadors. The judges weren't professors, they were fashion editors and industry insiders. The grand prize wasn't a gift certificate to the campus bookstore, it was a feature on the Vogue Forward blog and a cash prize with more zeros than my bank account. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just public humiliation. This was sponsored, professionally filmed, career-level public humiliation. My phone buzzed. A text from my older sister, Isabella. Heard from Sam you did something stupid. On a scale of 1 to setting the chemistry lab on fire again, how bad is it? I didn't have the energy to type. I just called her. It's bad, Izzy, I croaked. It's really, really bad. I explained everything. The bet, the dare, the registration with the intimidatingly chic woman who thought I was some kind of avant-garde trailblazer, the non-cancelable stamp, and the soul-crushing discovery I'd just made online. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard it, a small snort, then a giggle, then a full-blown, gut-busting, uncontrollable laugh. Oh my God, she shrieked. You entered the Athena Gala. This is the best thing that has ever happened. It's not funny. I yelled, mortified. My life is over. Isabella, who was a fashion design student, finally managed to catch her breath. A laughingstock? Leo, you're missing the point. This is high fashion. This is performance art. But oh, you're so screwed. What am I going to do? I pleaded. Well, she said, and I could hear the smirk in her voice, I guess the first thing you need to do is prepare. You can start by booking a full body wax. Trust me, from what I've seen of you in shorts, you're going to need an industrial-sized tub and a very high pain tolerance. There's a lot of foliage to clear before you can even think about putting on a pair of 15 denier shears. My sister, bless her sadistic, fashion-forward soul, took my predicament on as her personal passion project. My dorm room became a secret training ground, a Project Runway boot camp from hell. The first session was walking. No, 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 she cried, slapping her forehead. You're walking like you're trying to muscle past a defender. This is a runway, Leo. You need grace. Fluidity. She'd brought a pair of her old heels, mercifully only about 3 inches, that she forced me into. My size 11 feet protested immediately, crammed into the pointy-toed prisons. It's impossible, I grunted, wobbling like a baby giraffe on ice. It's not. Push from your hips. Let them lead, she instructed, demonstrating with a smooth glide across my tiny room. Don't be so stiff. You look like a plank of wood with shoes on. I tried to imitate her, but my hips felt bolted to my spine. I took a hesitant step, tried to swing, and immediately lost my balance, crashing into my desk chair. Next came the lesson on hosiery. Izzy laid out a pair on my bed. They were a delicate, shimmering beige, so thin they looked like captured smoke. Rule number 1, she said, always check for snags. A single rough fingernail is a death sentence. She showed me how to bunch them up and slowly, meticulously, roll them up my leg. I took a deep breath and tried. The material was impossibly soft and cool, slithering through my fingers like liquid silk. It was a completely alien sensation. My hands were shaking slightly. I got the stocking over my toes, but my nervous energy got the better of me. I pulled too fast. There was a faint zip sound. A tiny, almost invisible run had appeared near my ankle. And that's why we go slow, Izzy said with an exasperated sigh, handing me another pair. These things are more fragile than your ego. The most traumatic part, however, was the great deforestation. The waxing. Izzy booked me an appointment at a salon with a discreet back entrance. A woman named Brenda, who had arms like a lumberjack and a surprisingly gentle voice, looked at my legs and just nodded slowly. Okay, honey. This is going to be a journey. I lay on the table, my t-shirt drenched in a cold sweat. Brenda slathered warm, sticky wax onto my shin, pressed a cloth strip over it, and said, "Deep breath. Ryip." A firestorm of pain erupted on my leg. I yelped. Through watery eyes, I saw the strip. It was covered in a dense forest of my own black leg hair. One down, Brenda said cheerfully. About 100 more to go. But then, a strange thing happened. As Brenda finished the second leg and applied a soothing, cool lotion, I looked down. My legs were completely, utterly smooth. Pink and a little blotchy, but smooth. The skin felt hypersensitive. When I ran my hand over my calf, it was like touching a different person's body. The defined muscles I was so proud of were now even more prominent. There was a bizarre, unexpected sense of satisfaction in the clean, sleek lines. The aftermath was almost as bad. The next day in the gym showers, I tried to be subtle. "Whoa, Martinez," one of my teammates, Marco, shouted. "Did you have a run-in with a lawnmower? Your legs are bald." A few other guys turned to look. I could feel my face burning. I saw Sam in the corner, trying and failing to hide a smirk. "It's for aerodynamics," I mumbled, scrubbing my hair with unnecessary vigor. "Aerodynamics?" Marco scoffed. "Or are you getting ready for something else?" He winked. "Heard a little something about a gala. You turning into a showgirl on us, Leo." The laughter was light, but it had an edge. It stung worse than any waxing strip. I just finished my shower in stony silence. By the end of the week, I was exhausted, hairless, and deeply questioning every decision I'd ever made. I was a jock. My emotional range on the field was determined grimace and victory roar. This whole radiating inner beauty thing was a foreign language. But the day of the prelims was here. There was no backing out now. Backstage was a hurricane of hairspray, frantic energy, and women who looked like they'd been born walking in 6-inch heels. I was the only man, a fact that was glaringly, painfully obvious. I huddled in a corner, clutching the garment bag Izzy had prepared for me. My outfit was deceptively simple. A long, black silk robe that tied at the waist and, underneath, a pair of ultra-thin, skin-tone stockings. 20 denier, a term I now understood. They were designed to give the leg a flawless, airbrushed look. As I rolled them on in the cramped dressing room, my newly sensitive skin tingled. They felt like a second skin, a cool whisper against my shins and thighs. Looking in the mirror was a shock. My legs looked unreal. The smooth skin, the defined muscles, all encased in this sheer, perfect layer of nylon. For a fleeting second, I didn't hate it. A stagehand clipped a microphone pack to the back of my robe. "You're on in 5, Leo," he said, not even batting an eye. My heart started to pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs. And now, a booming voice announced, a contestant bringing a bold new perspective to our competition. "Please welcome, Leo Martinez." I took a deep breath and stepped into the light. It was blinding. A wall of heat and brightness hit me. Then my eyes adjusted. There were hundreds of faces in the audience, and a long table at the front where 3 judges sat. Ilara Vance was in the middle, her expression unreadable. To her right sat a severe-looking older man, and to her left, a young woman with a sharp, dark bob and an impossibly stylish suit. Her eyes, even from this distance, were piercing. I started my walk, trying to remember everything Izzy had taught me. Hips lead, figure 8, don't look like a plank of wood. My walk was probably more like a nervous shuffle, but I was moving. I reached the center of the stage, paused, and went to strike my first pose, a simple turn to showcase the line of my leg. But as I turned, I felt a snag. The wire from my mic pack had caught on something. I tried to shift, and that's when I heard it. A sound like tearing fabric, only much, much quieter. A horrifying, sickening zip. I froze. I slowly looked down. A massive, jagged run had torn right up the front of my stocking, from my knee all the way to my mid-thigh. A gaping wound in the flawless material. My bare, blotchy skin was exposed. A gasp rippled through the audience, followed by a wave of titters. I glanced at the judges' table. The older man looked mortified on my behalf. Ilara Vance's face was a mask of professional neutrality. But the third judge, the one with the dark bob, was hiding a smile behind her hand. Her eyes, however, were sparkling with amusement. My mind went completely blank. This was it. The ultimate humiliation. I wanted the stage to open up and swallow me whole. I could hear Sam's laughter echoing in my head. Then something snapped. It was a strange mix of panic, anger, and a bizarre surge of adrenaline. I wasn't going to just stand here and be laughed at. I wasn't going to slink off stage in defeat. In a move fueled by pure desperation, I did the only thing I could think of. I reached down, grabbed the hem of my silk robe, and with a dramatic flourish, tore off a long strip of the black fabric. The sound of ripping silk cut through the murmuring of the crowd. Before anyone could figure out what I was doing, I knelt down and tied the strip of black silk firmly around my thigh, right over the top of the gaping run, fashioning it into a sort of makeshift garter. It covered the worst of the tear, leaving just a hint of the rugged rip below. I stood up, my heart pounding. I looked directly at the judges, held their gaze for a beat, and then completed my walk down the runway, not with the grace of a model, but with a defiant, almost aggressive swagger. I didn't smile. I just owned the disaster. I walked off stage, my whole body trembling. I had either just saved myself or made everything a million times worse. By the time I got back to my dorm room, my phone was blowing up. A clip of my performance, filmed from the audience, was already going viral. It was titled, "The Ripped Stocking Rebel at the Athena Gala." The video was brutal. It showed everything: my nervous entrance, the catastrophic rip, my moment of frozen horror, and then the defiant act of tearing my robe. The comment section was a war zone. LOL, what a train wreck. This guy is trying way too hard. Is this performance art? I don't get it. But then there were other comments. Okay, but that recovery was kind of badass. I don't know. I think it's edgy. Hashtag Leo the legs. That took guts. Respect. The hashtag started trending. Hashtag Leo the legs. My teammates were having a field day, spamming our group chat with the video and crying laughing emojis. But underneath the mockery, I sensed something else. A text from Marco, the same guy who'd made fun of my shaved legs, just said, "Dude, that was nuts." But gotta admit, ballsy move. It was the highest form of praise you could get from him. The next day, I got an official email. I had made it through to the semifinals. I was stunned. I was sure I was out. What I didn't know was what happened at the judges' table after I left the stage. Well, that was a disaster, the older judge had said, shaking his head. I don't know, a voice cut in. It was the stylish woman with the dark bob. She was no longer smiling. She was tapping a pen against her notepad. His social media engagement is already spiking, she noted, glancing at a tablet in front of her. The clip is going viral. They're calling his move unconventional and disruptive. She nodded slowly. It was disruptive, she said to the other judges. The theme of this competition isn't just beauty. It's about style. It's about making a statement. For 99% of the contestants, a ripped stocking is the end. For him, it was a beginning. He turned a flaw into a feature. He created a moment. She looked at Alara, then back at the older man. That's not a disaster. That's style. She circled my name on her score sheet. Keep him. I want to see what he does next. And, just like that, thanks to a wardrobe malfunction and an act of sheer panic, I wasn't just a joke contestant anymore. I was the edgy one, the wild card. And I was heading to the semifinals. The theme for the semifinals was seductive beauty. When Izzy unveiled the outfit, my jaw hit the floor. Black fishnets with an intricate lace band at the top, paired with tight, black leather shorts. You cannot be serious, I groaned. I'll look like a cheap knockoff of some 80s rock star. You're missing the point, Izzy said. They passed you through because you were edgy. We have to lean into it. This isn't about being pretty. It's about being confident. But my confidence was gone. Backstage, surrounded by professionals, my self-doubt was a physical weight. I put on the outfit and stared at my reflection. The fishnets created a diamond pattern across my muscular legs, and the leather shorts hugged my hips in a way that felt both powerful and incredibly exposed. I looked like a joke. I don't think so. I jumped. The voice was soft but clear. I turned, and there she was. The judge with the dark bob. She was standing in the doorway of my dressing room. I'm Cora, she said simply. I'm a mentor for this round. Technically not supposed to be back here, but rules are suggestions. She stepped into the room. I think you look like someone who isn't afraid to be different. And in fashion, that's rarer than perfection. I was speechless. She was even more striking up close. My sister designed it, I stammered. You do more than wear it, she said, her gaze analytical. You're uncomfortable, but you're not hiding. There's a tension there. It's interesting. She stepped closer, and my heart rate kicked into overdrive. Your collar is crooked. Her fingers brushed against my neck as she adjusted the simple black t-shirt I wore. Her touch was electric. She pulled her hand back quickly. Beauty isn't about fitting in, Leo. It's about having the courage to stand out. Don't lose that by trying to be what you think we want. Just be yourself. She left, leaving me with a perfectly straight collar and a heart doing acrobatics. Her words echoed in my mind. Be yourself. My performance in the semifinals was different. Fueled by Cora's words, I walked out there not as a joke, but as me. I didn't try for a supermodel glide. I walked with the confidence I felt on the soccer field, a little bit of a swagger. I owned the look. But just as I was hitting my final pose, a voice from the audience cut through the applause. Martinez, get off the stage. Go back to the soccer field, you joke. I froze. It was Sam. He was standing in the crowd with a group of our friends, some of them laughing. The bet was supposed to be a secret. His heckling felt like a betrayal. He was right. What was I doing here? I looked from Sam's sneering face to the judge's table, where Cora was watching me intently, her expression a mixture of concern and challenge. Her words came back to me. Don't lose your authenticity. Something inside me hardened. I turned back toward Sam, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across my face. I didn't shout back. Right there, in my tight leather shorts and fishnet stockings, I dropped into a perfect 180-degree split. It was a stretch I'd worked on for years for soccer, for flexibility. But here on this stage, in this outfit, it was something else entirely. It was a fusion of both my worlds, the athlete and the performer. A shocked silence fell over the crowd. Then it erupted. It wasn't just applause, it was a roar. I had taken Sam's taunt about the soccer field and turned it into my greatest weapon. I held the split for a 5 count, looking directly at Sam, my smile never wavering, then gracefully rose and walked off stage to a thunderous standing ovation. I'd made it to the finals. The theme was strength and softness. The outfit Izzy and I created felt less like a costume and more like a statement. Impossibly thin nude stockings, but printed on them was a subtle anatomical shadow of the musculature beneath. On top, a sharply tailored men's tuxedo vest with no shirt underneath. And on my feet, razor-sharp stiletto heels that I could now walk in as if I'd been born in them. When I stepped onto the stage for the final time, the lights felt like a welcome. My walk was easy, my gestures fluid. As I reached the end of the runway, I did a slow, deliberate turn. My eyes scanned the audience and landed on Cora. The jumbo screen showed her face in close-up. Her expression was full of a powerful, undisguised emotion, pride, admiration, and something softer, more personal. I gave a small, genuine smile, meant only for her. In the end, I didn't win the crown. The title of Athena Queen went to a professional dancer from New York whose legs were, to be fair, absolutely incredible. Then came the special awards. And now, for a new award created just for this season, the host announced. For a contestant who broke the mold, challenged our perceptions, and showed us that style has no gender. The award for most daring and impressive style goes to Leo Martinez. The crowd roared. My teammates, who had come to witness the train wreck, were on their feet, cheering louder than anyone. Even Sam was clapping, a genuine, sheepish grin on his face. I accepted the crystal trophy. Wow, I started. When I began this, it was a joke. A dare. I thought I had to be one thing. But this experience, it taught me that real strength isn't about being hard all the time. It's about being brave enough to be vulnerable. To explore all the parts of yourself. The applause was deafening. As I walked off stage, I passed by the judges' table. Cora was gathering her papers. In the chaos of the finale, she leaned in close. That was a great speech, she murmured, her voice a warm whisper in my ear. She slipped a small, folded piece of paper into my hand, her fingers brushing against mine. Call me. Then she smiled and disappeared into the throng. A few weeks later, my life had settled into a new normal. In my dorm room, mounted in a sleek shadow box frame next to my soccer trophies, was a single pair of stockings, the nude, muscle-printed ones from the finale. One evening, there was a knock on the door. It was Sam. He shuffled his feet awkwardly. Hey, so, that steak dinner thing is still on, right? For a month, buddy. You lost the bet, I said with a grin. Yeah, I know. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. Listen, man, that gala thing, it was actually pretty cool. What you did. Thanks, Sam. He took a deep breath. So, just hypothetically, do you know if they take applications for next year? And, where would a guy, get waxed? I just looked at him, and then I burst out laughing. The dare had come full circle. I unfolded the small piece of paper from my pocket, looked at the number written on it, and smiled. My journey, I knew, was just beginning.